There's a habit that sounds too small to matter. $6 a day. That's it. Most people would laugh at it. One janitor didn't. And 11 years later, that number changed everything about his family's future. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what he did, and why nobody, not even his own kids, believed it was working until it was too late to ignore. Walter Higgins had cleaned the same 3 floors of the Kessler building for 19 years. Same navy polo. Same key ring with too many keys. Same 5 a.m. shift before the offices filled up. He drove a 2009 Corolla with a cracked side mirror he'd never bothered to fix. And he brought the same lunch every day. A sandwich in a plastic grocery bag, folded twice at the top. Nobody at the Kessler building thought much about Walter. He was the guy who nodded good morning and knew which vending machine ate your quarters. Reliable. Invisible. The kind of person offices run on and never notice. His daughter, Renee, worked 2 buildings over in marketing. She had a nicer car, a nicer apartment, and a habit of picking up the check when her dad visited. Because in her mind, that's what you did for a guy who cleaned toilets for a living. It happened on a Tuesday. Walter's wife, Denise, had been gone 3 years by then. Cancer, fast and merciless. And the medical bills that followed had eaten through what little cushion they'd had. Walter was still paying off the last of it, $40 here, $60 there, whenever he could spare it. That Tuesday, his car wouldn't start. Dead battery, corroded terminals. The whole thing. He didn't have $90 for a new one. He stood in the Kessler parking garage at 5:40 a.m., staring under the hood like staring would fix it, and felt something he hadn't let himself feel in years. Shame. Not because he couldn't afford a battery, because he realized he hadn't saved a single dollar in 11 years of working. Every paycheck went out as fast as it came in. He was 61 years old and $90 away from not being able to get to work. He borrowed the money from a coworker, paid it back within 2 weeks, and then did something strange. He opened a notebook, a cheap spiral one from the dollar store, and wrote a single line on the first page. $6 a day, no matter what, starting now. Why 6? Because it was the cost of the coffee and the pack of gum he bought every morning at the gas station on his way in. He didn't need to cut anything from his life. He just needed to stop pretending that habit was invisible. He opened a second bank account, the kind you can't access from an ATM, on purpose, and set up an automatic transfer of $6 a day, every day, weekends included. $182 a month. Not enough to notice missing, not enough to feel. Here's what Walter understood that most people never do. The amount doesn't matter nearly as much as the consistency. $6 a day isn't a savings plan. It's a signal. It's proof, repeated daily, that you are someone who doesn't spend everything that touches your hands. Most people wait until they have extra money to start saving. But extra money almost never shows up, because lifestyle expands to meet whatever comes in. Walter flipped the order. He decided the $6 came out first, automatically before he ever saw it, before he could talk himself out of it. It sounds almost too simple to matter, but the hardest part was never the math. It was ignoring the voice that said $6 a day was pointless, that a man his age with his bills should either do something bigger or not bother at all. Walter didn't listen to that voice. He just kept the transfer running. For the first year, nobody knew. Then his son-in-law spotted the notebook on the kitchen table and asked about it, half joking. Walter explained the rule. His son-in-law laughed, not unkindly, and said, $6 isn't gonna fix much, Walt. It became a running joke at holidays. How's the $6 empire coming along, Walter? Renee would smile when she said it, but underneath she worried. Her dad was in his 60s, still scrubbing floors, and this felt like one more sign he didn't understand money the way she did, the way her co-workers with their retirement accounts and index funds did. Walter never argued. He just kept moving the $6. 4 years in, Walter's roof started leaking. The estimate came back at $3,400, money he flat out did not have sitting around anywhere else. The old Walter would have put it on a credit card and spent the next 2 years chipping away at the interest. But by then, the separate account had quietly grown to just over $4,100. He paid the roofers in full, in cash, and felt something unfamiliar walking back into his kitchen that afternoon. Relief that didn't come with a bill attached. He didn't celebrate. He didn't tell Renee how close the timing had been. He just kept the $6 transfer running the very next morning, like nothing had happened. Because to him, nothing had. The account had done exactly what it was built to do. By the time Walter turned 72, the Corolla had finally been replaced, paid in cash, used, nothing flashy. He still wore the navy polo, still brought the same folded lunch, still cleaned the same 3 floors, though now more out of habit and company than necessity. The account held $71,000. 11 years of $6 a day, left alone, growing slowly in low-cost index funds his bank had recommended once he'd finally asked. Nobody at the Kessler building had any idea. To them, Walter was still just the janitor with the cracked mirror and the dollar store notebook. Renee found out by accident, going through paperwork with him after a doctor's appointment. She sat with the statement in her hands for a long time before she said anything. "Dad, this is more than I have in my 401k. Walter shrugged. "I never made much. I just never stopped." What Walter understood, and what took Renee years to really absorb, is that most people treat saving like it requires a windfall to begin. A raise, a bonus, some future version of themselves with more room to breathe. Walter never waited for more room. He made $6 a day fit into the room he already had, no matter how tight that room was. He didn't need discipline in the dramatic white-knuckle sense. He needed one decision, made once, that he never had to make again. The amount was never really the point. The point was that Walter stopped being someone who spent everything and started being someone who didn't. One automatic transfer at a time for over 4,000 days in a row. Walter still works at the Kessler building 3 days a week now, mostly because he likes the routine and the people, not because he has to. The notebook sits in a kitchen drawer, mostly retired, its job long since done. Renee started her own version last year. $8 a day, her number, her reason. She keeps a notebook too, though hers lives on her phone. When people ask her about it, she doesn't explain the math. She just says, "My dad taught me that the number matters less than not stopping." If the story of Walter and his $6 rule hits somewhere close to home, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a thought in the comments. What's one small amount you could start moving today automatically before you ever see it? Sometimes the number that feels too small to matter is exactly the one that works. And if someone in your life needs to hear this today, send it their way. That might be the most useful thing you do for them this week. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next one.